What are you doing, New Year? New Year's Eve. As for me, I'm going to be reading, of course. In celebration of the upcoming New Year, I did a book haul of 7 glorious books. I picked them off from my friend's Pango bookshelf. If you don't know what Pango is, it's a site where you can sell your used books online and ship them to those who watch you, for instance, on BookTube. You can take home a book that I've read just by shopping from my bookshelf. I shopped from my friend Anjanette Barr over at the Book Bar. I will put her YouTube handle and her Pango bookshelf, as well as my own, in the description below this video. Now, why did I pick these 7? For some of the books, it's just simply the author's name that drew my attention or caught my eye. And for others, it was the book jacket or the title, or in some respects, a combination of all 3. I have them placed here from tallest to shortest, and I'm going to go ahead and go through them from shortest to tallest. And since I don't actually know much about the books I've picked outside of the title or the author's name, I thought we could go through them together. So I'm going to read either the back cover copy or the inside cover flap, and I will once again read the first sentence of each book and then put them in the order that I think I might be reading them based on the name of the author, the title of the book, the cover copy, and the first sentence, and then we'll go from there. And you can decide for yourself if you'd like to purchase any of these books. I will have their Amazon links also in the description box below. So we're going to start with My Grandfather's Blessing, Stories of Strength, Refuge, and Belonging by Rachel Naomi Remen, MD. The back cover copy of My Grandfather's Blessings. In My Grandfather's Blessings, Rachel Naomi Remen, a cancer physician and master storyteller, uses her luminous stories to remind us of the power of our kindness and the joy of being alive. Dr. Remen's grandfather, an Orthodox rabbi and scholar of the Kabbalah, saw life as a web of connection and knew that everyone belonged to him and that he belonged to everyone. He taught her that blessing one another is what fills our emptiness, heals our loneliness, and connects us more deeply to life. Life has given us many more blessings than we have allowed ourselves to receive. My Grandfather's Blessings is about how we can recognize and receive our blessings and bless the life in others. Serving others heals us. Through our service, we will discover our own wholeness and the way to restore hidden wholeness in the world. Now, without reading anything else, what this book reminds me of is the truth that through our service, we will discover our own wholeness. Serving others heals us. And I know this to be true from my own life. When my first husband abandoned me and left me for another woman, and my whole world was turned upside down, a story I shared when I reviewed the book Embers. Well, I was stripped of everything, my home, my job, the love of my life, or so I thought he was at the time. And in part, what began to heal me was taking a job as a foster care case aide. Learning about the stories of abused and neglected children that found themselves torn from the only home they had known, placed into foster care. Some going through the process of their parents attempting to have a reunification with them. Some parents being stripped of their rights and the kids being put up for adoption. Some kids languishing for years of unknown and in between in just the foster care system. And to look at these little kids, knowing that, wow, they've already lived through so much more than me. Put my own pain into perspective. And by giving to them, I was made whole once again. And so, as the back cover copy of this book says, serving others heals us. And just from that alone, I'm attesting to its truth, and I'm excited to read this book. The very first sentence of this book is found in its introduction. Often, when he came to visit, my grandfather would bring me a present. Now, we're going to put this in the number 1 slot because it's our first book. Well, that was easy. Next, we have a book called Dakota, A Spiritual Geography by Kathleen Norris. Now, what caught my eye about this book in and of itself was its cover copy, the front photo of a church in the middle of nowhere, and the title Dakota. I once upon a time lived in Casper, Wyoming. As I mentioned in my 3 to See the King video, I would often drive through the Dakotas to see my family that lived around the Great Lakes area. And I loved the Dakotas. I loved driving through them. There's nothing quite like those states. They are beautiful. Beautiful in their starkness, beautiful in their wide open places, beautiful among their rocky ledges, great open swaths of land instead of people. Just does something for my spirit and my soul. An evocation of the Great Plains and its influence on the human spirit, Dakota describes the harsh, desolate, yet sublime landscape that embodies the contradictions of American life as lived in the small towns where history and myth have become indistinguishable. The first sentence of this book is found in a chapter called The Beautiful Places. The high plains, the beginning of the desert west, often act as a crucible for those who inhabit them. Now, isn't that an intriguing first sentence? I'm going to go ahead and put this book in the first position. Next up is Love Anyway by Jeremy Courtney. I had not heard of Jeremy Courtney prior to picking up this book. And so let's go ahead and learn more about him by reading the back cover copy. Preemptive Love founder Jeremy Courtney has seen the very worst of war. He's risked his life saving lives on the front lines. He's come face to face with ISIS, been targeted by death threats, and narrowly escaped airstrikes. Through it all, the most powerful thing he's learned is this: we're not just at war with each other, we're at war with ourselves. But the way things are is not the way they have to be. There is a more beautiful world. To find it, we have to confront our fears and end war where it starts, in our own heads and hearts. Love Anyway will inspire you to confront your deepest fears and respond to our scary world with the kind of love that seems a little crazy. Because when we do, we become agents of hope who unmake violence and unfurl the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Love Anyway is the story of Jeremy's incredible journey and an invitation to discover the more beautiful world on the front lines where you live. Chapter 1, Your presence is requested on the other side of the way things are. First sentence. Sometimes I wish I could reclaim the blissful naivety of my youth, when the United States was an unqualified force for good, racism was a thing of the past, and gluten was good. Yes, agreed. Why can't gluten be good? Although my father, who has celiac disease, I don't think he misses gluten all that much. I don't know if I could be such a trooper as him when having to make huge changes within my diet. However, he's never felt better. So there's always that. Although I do find this book intriguing, for now I'm going to go ahead and actually put it in third place behind my grandfather's blessings. Now we have a book from Laurie titled, Do You Want to Change Your Life? Now, let it be known, I have always been a fan of Laurie's ever since I knew of him. In fact, when I was going to school at Kuiper College and then worked briefly on staff there within the advancement office, I would often sneak out on a lunch break to turn on the Christian radio station near me and listen in to Laurie's broadcast. There's something about his voice that I find comforting, something about the way he speaks and the way he shares truth that is funny and yet serious and just oh so good. He's a pastor that I have felt guided by throughout various points and times in my life. This is the first book I've ever had of his, and I am really excited to read it. So without further ado, let's find out what this book, Do You Want to Change Your Life?, is all about. There's an indefinable something in the air at a harvest crusade, whether it takes place in Southern California, Philadelphia, Chicago, or even New Zealand. A sense of excitement and anticipation builds through the evening as tens of thousands gather in large stadiums to listen to top Christian recording artists and hear relevant, engaging messages from God's Word. Harvest Crusades are designed as opportunities for Christians to invite family members, co-workers, and friends to hear the life-changing message of the gospel in an environment that is entertaining, yet non-threatening. Since 1990, more than 5,122,000 people have attended a Harvest Crusades event in person, and more than 434,600 people have made professions of faith in Jesus Christ. The 15 life-changing messages from Pastor Laurie contained in this book have been drawn from Harvest Crusades in a variety of cities and settings. It's an opportunity to experience some of the flavor of a crusade and consider some of the messages that have touched the lives of millions around the world. The introduction. First sentence. In every Harvest Crusade, wherever we may be in the world, I always close each event the same way. Now, although I very much like Laurie, as I mentioned, I'm not so sure that this book is going to be a 5-star just because it's a mixture of 15 messages. And while I'm sure that they'll go together, it's also not going to read like a story. And so I'm actually going to hold off on this one and put this one at the back of the pack. So this one's going to go behind Love Anyway. Oh, we have a Jen Hatmaker book here. Now, while I've heard of Jen and we share a first name, I haven't ever read one of her books. I believe I've probably come across some of her posters on Facebook, and I've probably read some blog post here or there, but I've never read one of her books. I am very excited to finally have one in my hands. So this Jen Hatmaker book is called For the Love, Fighting for Grace in a World of Impossible Standards. For today's woman, life is a whopping mess of joys and challenges, bruises and triumphs, decisions and intimidations. And it's not getting any easier. Women are offered conflicting standards for measuring up, and nobody knows that reality more than Jen Hatmaker. She is one of us. Having compared herself to career women killing it, craft moms slaying it, chef moms nailing it, and Christian leaders working it, Jen has endured it all and now declares the answer for our lives, the liberating, soul-healing grace of God. In this wise and hilarious journey through the roller coaster of modern womanhood, Jen explodes the myth that makes us miserable and charts a path to freedom. This is the book for every woman who has ever said, I'm doing a terrible job at everything. It is an unsparing critique of what this world does to us and a glorious celebration of what life can be with grace. And there are some tasty recipes along with permission to wear stretchy pants. And who doesn't like a good pair of stretchy pants? Now, just because I feel like this book is going to be completely relatable as a woman and as a mom, I'm going to put this book into the first place spot, it can knock all the other ones back a place or two. And then we have John C. Maxwell. Now, this book I picked up just because of the name of the author. I like to read books on leadership, knowing what is coming up in my own life in areas that I will be leading and growing and challenging myself and others to encourage and inspire and to help us all to give the best we possibly can for a similar cause and vision, to all catch the same wave to bring God the glory. I want to be prepared and I want to lead well. So this book by John C. Maxwell talks about the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Follow them and people will follow you. What would happen if a top expert with more than 30 years of leadership experience were willing to distill everything he had learned about leadership into a handful of life-changing principles just for you? Well, it would change your life. John C. Maxwell has done exactly that in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He has combined insights learned from his 30-plus years of leadership successes and mistakes with observations from the worlds of business, politics, sports, religion, and military conflict. The result is a revealing study of leadership delivered as only a communicator like Maxwell can. We're going to find out why Henry Ford nearly sent his own company into bankruptcy, why some entrepreneurs receive plenty of money from venture capitalists while others can't get a dime. Princess Diana was loved by millions while her husband couldn't persuade people to give him the time of day. We're going to find out why Coca-Cola stock held strong even when its CEO suddenly died. Why an unknown pastor in a developing country grew the size of his church from 700 to 14,000 people in 7 years. And why the law of the lid is the most important leadership principle you will ever learn. All of these issues and many others are explained in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Like them or not, the laws of leadership govern your personal and organizational effectiveness. Everything rises and falls on leadership, says Maxwell. These laws carry consequences with them. Apply the laws and people will follow you. Violate or ignore them, and you will not be able to lead others. The good news is that every one of the 21 laws of leadership can be learned. Chapter 1, The Law of the Lid. Leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. I often open my leadership conferences by explaining the law of the lid because it helps people understand the value of leadership. Now, while the whys of different people's lives I found to be intriguing in this front cover copy, that first sentence is a little dry. And so actually, I think I'm going to put this book in the back for now. It's going behind Greg Laurie's. Do you want to change your life? Because while the answer is yes, and I do want to continue to grow and learn, there's a certain order in how I want to educate myself. And that brings me to the final book of this book haul video of 7 books. Educated by Tara Westover. Tara Westover was 17 the first time she set foot in a classroom. Born to survivalists in the mountains of Idaho, she prepared for the end of the world by stockpiling home-canned peaches and sleeping with her head for the hills bag. In the summer, she stewed herbs for her mother and midwife and healer, and in the winter, she salvaged metal in her father's junkyard. Her father distrusted the medical establishment, so Tara never saw a doctor or nurse. Gashes and concussions, even burns from explosions, were all treated at home with herbalism. Family was so isolated from mainstream society that there was no one to ensure the children received an education and no one to intervene when an older brother became violent. When another brother got himself into college and came back with news of the world beyond the mountain, Tara decided to try a new kind of life. She taught herself enough mathematics, grammar, and science to take the ACT and was admitted to BYU. There she studied psychology, politics, philosophy, and history, learning for the first time about pivotal world events like the Holocaust and the Civil Rights Movement. Her quest for knowledge transformed her, taking her over oceans and across continents to Harvard and to Cambridge University. Only then would she wonder if she traveled too far, if there was still a way home. Educated is an account of the struggle for self-invention, as a tale of fierce family loyalty and of the grief that comes of severing one's closest ties. With the acute insight that distinguishes all great writers, Westover has crafted a universal coming-of-age story that gets to the heart of what an education is and what it offers. The perspective to see one's life through new eyes, and the will to change it. And without even reading the first page, I guarantee this book is going into first place. The first sentence of the prologue. I'm standing on the red railway car that sits abandoned next to the barn. And just like that, I'm sold. Educated goes into the first place spot. So the order has changed. It goes from tallest down to the smallest and back up again. I am so excited for this new year, for these new to me books that I have to read, and for sharing them all with you. Happy New Year. May saying goodbye to 2022 be easy, and may welcoming in 2023 bring you nothing but hope. Your future is bright. Until next time, friends.